So my name is Dave Wichers. I'm the Owasp Conferences Chair and a member of the Owasp Board. And I welcome all of you to our biggest conference ever. Of course, every year it's the biggest conference ever because we keep growing. I wanted to thank you, Dave, and kick off at this great facility that we've already been using for 2 days. We'll be using for 2 more days. Apparently, we've already had some nimble fingers already. Not on purpose, I'm sure, but all of you guys got a book called the Owasp5058, or you should have gotten a book. Well, if you actually grabbed a different book that doesn't say Owasp5058 on the front, you grabbed the wrong book. So, if any of you have a book that's not the Owasp5058, can you please bring it back to the conference table? Obviously, they shouldn't put it anywhere near all the free stuff, because obviously it's easy for someone to walk away with it. So, if it's a book like Owasp Guide or Owasp World or any of those things, that's the book it's about. So let me go through my introductions real quick so we can move on. So, if you don't know what Owasp is about, I just want to mention briefly that Owasp, obviously the O is open. We're an open source organization whose mission is to help the world develop and maintain and evaluate software that they can use and trust. So that's what our mission is about. So we do that in a number of ways. We're doing a lot of outreach, obviously communities like this, various chapters around the world. We have a lot of projects which provide guidance on how you develop secure software, tools to help you either learn about it or test software, etc., etc. And there's sort of a number of principles here. I'm not going to go through all of those, but being free and open is a core tenet of what we're about. And so I think that's helpful for the community to have sort of an unbiased source that can help serve as a focal point for this kind of information and start to foster community discussion. So we have lots of Owasp, and I'm not going to go through all this thing, but there's a lot of resources available to you. The wiki that we put together about 18 months ago has really helped Owasp explode in terms of having lots of content and ease contributions to Owasp, and that has definitely reduced the lower barrier to entry to participate in this help. So the other thing that we did about 18 months ago or 12 months ago is launch the Owasp chapters, and we have about 100 chapters around the world now. Some obviously more active than others. In fact, we have some outstanding chapters that have meetings of 100 or sometimes even 200 people at a single chapter meeting, almost as big as this conference. So we have some really, really big chapters going on. So this is the 7th series, and I think this is probably going to stop counting them in terms of order because we're starting to franchise out to too many conferences, so we're going to just talk about, this is the US conference for 08 or the Europe conference for 08 or whatever. So for this year, we typically have a US and European conference, so the previous conference was in Milan. But we also had Owasp Day. We had an idea of Owasp Day, and Dennis Cruz helped head that up. And it turns out Owasp Day actually extended over a period of about a week, more than a week. We had 17 chapters around the world have sort of large chapter meetings. And we also had our first Owasp conference outside of the typical US-European conference. That was in Taiwan. So Wayne from Armorize organized that. It was a half-day thing that he put together, and we had 600 people show up for that. So I've also had people from Malaysia say, hey, I want to have an Owasp conference. We're organizing one in Australia next spring. And so who knows what it's going to be like next year. So we're definitely going to have US, Europe, and Australia. Those are already committed. I think the one in Taiwan is probably going to happen again. Ofer, who's in the room, maybe Owasp Israel. I think you guys have one of the biggest chapters in the world, so it makes sense to maybe consider having another conference there. So the franchise is growing faster than I can possibly keep up with it. But we have a lot of help now. We're starting to get a lot of help. The first 4 or 5 conferences, I essentially organized all by myself. And I said, boy, I need a conference committee. And the 2 guys that were the lucky victims that were in the cab with me on the way to Milan Airport, I said, I need help. I looked at them and they're like, okay. So Gunnar Peterson helped us organize the web services track, which is in the next room over. It'll be so we have sort of 2.5 tracks, if you will. We have 2 full tracks on both days, plus the web services track is just today in the next room over. And Pravir Chandra from Sigil was also in the cab with me. He helped organize the Tech Expo, which is the first time we've done that as well. And there's a number of other people involved. So not only do I have people helping with this conference, but I have committee chairs for the conferences in the future. So we have Sebastian Gale Schneider from Brussels, who's going to organize the European Conference in Brussels next March. And we also have Tom, who's Brendan, who's going to organize the U.S. conference next year in New York City. So we're going to be going back to New York for the first time as a review. So thanks for all the help, and we definitely need more. So if anybody's interested in helping organize a conference or serving a particular role on the conference committees, please let me know. We definitely need to expand this to 8 or 10 people that can help with that. So the conference schedule in general is that we have 2 or 3 tracks going on. We start off with a keynote, and then we split into 2 individual tracks or 3 in the case of today, and we usually be back up together for a panel towards the end of the day. Tomorrow there's actually 2 panels, so you have to decide which of the 2 panels which you want to see at the end of the day. And then in the evening, there's various events. So tonight there's the Owasp dinner, so a lot of you have signed up. If you haven't signed up and you're interested, let me know, and I hope that I should be able to squeeze you in. I think it's like $50. After that, there's a potentially an Owasp band meeting. That's the thing that Dennis Cruz tries to organize. It's very impromptu, so if anyone knows of a good jazz club that we can sort of call so we can get access to their facility for half an hour. And if any of you guys are musicians that want to help out and play, we did this in Milan last year. It was a lot of fun. We were leaving the bar at 2 in the morning, but it was okay. There's also a chapter leaders meeting today from 6 to 7. We're going to hold that right here, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So if you're a chapter leader, or you're thinking about being a chapter leader, or your leader's not here, come attend, and you guys can get together. There's the Tech Expo upstairs. So if you go past the lobby to the right and go up the stairs, all the vendors are up there, and they're open from 11 to 6 today. It's the first time we've done that. So please go and check out. There's about 12 vendors up there. And then tomorrow night, tomorrow the structure's essentially the same. There's no vendor expo, and track 3 is not here tomorrow. But the conference is organized in a similar way. And then tomorrow night, there's another cocktail party. So we've had 4, actually, sort of. So Sensic sponsored a party Monday night for the tutorial attendees, so thanks to Sensic for that. Reach sponsored one last night down in San Jose. That was a great one, thanks for that. And then on Thursday night, AppSec2007 and Microsoft together are sponsoring one at the Holiday Inn, which is 6 tenths of a mile down the road. It's in the same place where the Owasp dinner tonight is going to be held, so we're going to the dinner. I wanted to thank eBay and PayPal for providing an awesome facility, so thanks to you guys for that. And if you guys know of other great facilities in the New York City area next year, we think we got 0 down, but if any of you guys have been thinking like some big financial in New York City, you've got a great venue to help us out with the conference, we'd love to talk to you. And in future years, so I want to start planning these things farther in advance than 4 or 5 months. I want to thank all our sponsors for coming in. Most of them are upstairs at the Tech Expo, so please go talk to them, see what they've got going on up there. I think there's a lot of technology that's worth considering using. And in your conference packet, real quick, there's the agenda, there's wireless key information, there's maps and facilities and things like that. So, and then there's also collateral from all your sponsors in there too, so you can check out what people have in terms of their service offerings and technical. Yep. Oh, okay, sorry. So there's an eval form, voting form, what's that? Oh yeah, so there's an eval form for the conference. Please turn that in tomorrow or today, either one. There's a voting thing in there for the top 10 open source security projects that you love and use best. The Owasp is interested in donating $1,000 to each one of the top 10 projects that are out there. Just to say, hey, great job, you're helping the world, here's $1,000. And then some logistics, just mainly for the speakers. Please try to bring your own laptops so you can do your talks from your own laptops. We're going to record all the sessions, just to be aware of that. And there's wireless information in your conference packet, so if you need wireless access to that. And I already mentioned the dinner, the roast band. Here's directions. I mean, literally 6 tenths of a mile down the road. Go underneath the freeway. It's on your left there. Very, very easy to find. And that's it. So if Michael Barrett can speak quickly, because he's got to run to the airport, and then Dave Cullinane will continue. Turn mine off.
So I'm going to be brief. As Dave says, I have to hot foot into SFO to catch a flight in Europe, which is rather depressing because frankly I'd rather be here, but anyway. So I really wanted to just make a couple of introductory remarks. The first of which is welcome to the eBay North campus, which is primarily where the PayPal headquarters is. So all the folks you see around here are on board on that. Probably 95% of them are PayPal employees on the campus. So it's a great location and I'm very pleased to have you. The first real comment I wanted to make is this. We've all heard the phrase, may you live in interesting times. And some people say it's a proverb, other people say it's a curse. And maybe it is a curse, I don't know. So one way of looking at this is we definitely have both the fortune and the misfortune of living in interesting times. Fortune from the perspective of we have a bunch of work to do, and misfortune in the sense that if you think back a decade ago, people used to make the comment, hacking for fun and profit. Do you know that? That was common in the 90s, people would say that. And unfortunately, any longer, that hacking for fun seems to have gone away. What we're left with is hacking for profit, which is to say, it's pretty clear that the criminal community, the folks that do hacking as a profession, are now hardcore, organized, financially motivated criminals. And that is changing the dynamics of our industry in the sense that it is our job, whether we want it or not, to really figure out how to protect the internet on behalf of all of the hundreds of millions of people who use it. And if we don't do it, who the heck is going to? So in that sense, whether or not, as I say, whether or not we want that job, it's a really important one. That it's actually down to us to help protect the internet. There's a guy on my team who, when talking about work like this, says we're trying to put the science back into computer science. And I'd argue that what Owasp and Owasp and so on are about is defining in detail how you build technology to help secure websites and e-commerce facilities. And it's really important to get that right. I think there's one very simple reason why it's important to get it right. And Dave's going to talk about this more in his presentation, so I won't steal too much of his thunder on this. But it comes down to trust. So if you look at the PayPal brand and the eBay brand, the reason we're a business primarily electronically. There's very little about our business that's physical in any meaningful sense. So if our customers don't trust the internet and they don't trust our websites, they won't use us. Our businesses would not do well under those circumstances. And the same is true for, I would submit, almost everybody in the room. In the sense that if their employers, if your employers aren't trusted by your customers, you're not going to do very well for very long. So generally speaking, this is a battle we can't afford to lose. We have to define some very specific ways to help companies protect their websites and take what today are viewed as best practices and make them utterly commonplace so that any website you go to should never have an issue with it. That you shouldn't ever run into these kinds of problems in general. I kind of mentioned very briefly about eBay and PayPal, and there's a third business unit, Skype. We're a funny company in the sense that those three business units are managed, in a sense, very autonomously. So there are 3 CISOs for eBay. I look after PayPal, Dave looks after eBay Marketplaces, which is what people think of as eBay.com, as well as all of the ancillary properties. And then there's a guy in London who looks after Skype. So I spend far too much time with Dave, and that's largely because we have common adversaries and common problems. But with that, I'd like to introduce my good friend and colleague, Dave Coleman, the CISO of eBay Marketplaces.